Previously on Sodor, the early years. How long will James be at the works? Several weeks, I'm afraid. He was damaged quite badly in the accident. This is D7101. He will be helping with the Kirk Ronan branch reconstruction until James has been repaired. Early one evening, the engines were resting in the shed after what had been a very busy day. "I must say, I'm enjoying being on your railway," Bear said warmly. The other engines couldn't help smiling, but before they could reply, a familiar red shape backed down into the shed. "Hello, James," Henry said warmly. "Hello, everyone," James replied. He glanced over at Bear. "You must be Bear," he said, with a hint of distaste. Bear ignored it. "It's nice to meet you at last, James. I've heard a lot about you from the other engines." "I see," James replied. Despite Bear's politeness, James wasn't impressed. He didn't really trust diesel engines. After all, he could still remember how polite Diesel had seemed the first time he had come to Sodor. "Well, it's good to see you back on your wheels again, James," Gordon said. "Thank you," James replied. While the other engines happily chatted with James, Bear couldn't help feeling a little bit sad. The red engine's return meant that he would be sent back to the other railway, and that meant he would be scrapped. Early the next morning, Diesel was working in the yard, getting the first trains of the day ready to go out. Since being put in charge of the yard 3 years ago, Diesel had developed a rather efficient system for handling the trucks. He was proud of the way he handled the yard, and the Fat Controller knew that if a train did leave the yard late, it wouldn't be Diesel's fault. Diesel was aware that not all of the other engines trusted him, but none of them could fault his professionalism. However, this morning would be a different story. James's return from the works meant that his trains needed to be prepared, and with the Kirk Ronan branch reconstruction going on, the yard was busier than ever. Diesel was being worked off his wheels to get the trains ready on time, and even his system wasn't helping. I'm afraid to say he was beginning to feel quite stressed. Just after 9 o'clock, Donald arrived with some fish fans. They had that morning's fresh catch from fishing villages all along the Little Western. "I think these are to go out on James's fast goods this morning. Where do you want them?" he asked, as he pulled alongside Diesel. "I'll tell you as soon as I've got a spare siding." "Well, you dinna need to be rude about it." Diesel sidled off silently to clear a siding for Donald's train. As Diesel was backing away, Henry puffed in from the other side of the yard. "You look a wee bit put out, Henry," Donald observed. "My departure track is empty," Henry complained. "I'm supposed to be taking the slow goods to Barrow. I'd be careful if I were you. Yon Diesel's in a right foul mood." "Foul mood or not, he's supposed to be getting our trains ready. That's why he's in charge of the yard." Unfortunately, Diesel hadn't gone that far, and he heard what Henry had said. "You stupid engine," Diesel snapped. "Can't you see I'm flat out with the work here? You only need to worry about your trains. I have to prepare everyone's." "Are you telling me you can't keep up, Diesel?" Henry asked, with a hint of disbelief. "Yes," Diesel replied. "What you need is a deputation, Diesel," Donald said, remembering how he and Douglas had come to the railway. Diesel glanced over. "A what?" "A deputation. It's when the engines tell the fat controller there's something wrong. You may want to talk to Percy about it. Do you honestly think I have time to chat to that green caterpillar? Diesel said. He moved off without another word. The troublesome trucks had overheard the conversation between the three engines, and decided to have some fun.
Trucks are filling up the tracks, the diesel's working hard, but he's not much use at all, so busy is the yard. Back and forth he shunts all day.
That's it! Diesel yelled, and he came to a sudden stop. On the other side of the yard, Donald exchanged a worried look with Henry. That doesn't sound good, he said. Donald was right. Diesel refused to move an inch, and there was nothing his driver could do to get him going. Donald came and took Diesel's trucks, and Henry backed down to get his own train. Henry was worried as he came alongside Diesel. Despite the other engine's rudeness, Henry didn't want to see him make a mistake that he had once made himself. Diesel, Henry began. What? Diesel snapped. James, Gordon and I tried this once, stopping work to get what we wanted. All we got was confined to the shed. I've heard about that, Diesel replied, but unlike you, I've actually got a real complaint. Well, it's your choice, Henry said. A moment later, the yardmaster arrived. What do you think you're doing? He said to Diesel. You're causing all sorts of delay and trouble. I shall have to call the controller. By all means, call him, Diesel replied. The fat controller soon arrived, and he wasn't happy. Diesel, what's going on here? Do you have any idea how busy I've been, sir? I'm overworked. No sooner has one train left than another one has arrived, ready to be shunted and sorted. I'm trying to do things as efficiently as I can, but there's only so much that can do. The fat controller frowned. I see, he said. Diesel, you may have a grievance, but I'm not impressed by your actions. You're to go to the sheds until I send for you. As Diesel departed, the fat controller turned to the yardmaster. Has Bear already left for the other railway? He asked. Yes, sir, about an hour ago, replied the yardmaster. Very well. I shall have to use your phone. About 5 minutes later, Bear had just descended Gordon's Hill on his way back to the other railway. He had enjoyed his time on Sodor, but like all good things, it had ended far too soon. But as he approached Maron station, he spotted the station master waving a red flag. His driver braked, and Bear stopped just short of the platform. What's wrong? Bear asked. I've got new orders for you, Bear, directly from the controller. You're to return to the yard at Knapford, replied the station master. Bear frowned. Return to the yard? He asked, slightly confused. Yes, apparently Diesel has gone on strike, explained the station master. Bear grinned. I'll be happy to help, he said. Grinning, he moved forward to take the crossover onto the upline. Over the next couple of days, Bear looked after the yard, as well as a couple of odd jobs along the main line. He was glad to be having more time on Sodor. One evening, a couple of days after Diesel had been confined to the sheds, the fat controller came to see Bear. Tell me, Bear, how is the yard work going? He asked. Well, sir, Diesel's system is quite efficient. However, the workload is getting to be more than one engine load can handle. Bear paused for a moment. If there was another engine helping with the yard work, sir, then he and Diesel would be able to balance the shunting and odd jobs between them. I see. Tell me, Bear, do you particularly want to go back to the other railway? I am aware that diesel hydraulics like you have been withdrawn from service. A relieved smile crossed Bear's face. Not really, sir. I don't know what will happen to me if I go back to the other railway, and I'd rather not find out. The fat controller frowned, puzzled. Why didn't you say something about this earlier?
Well, I was only here to fill in for James, sir. I didn't want to impose on you. You wouldn't have been imposing, Bear. Not at all. The Fat Controller paused for a moment. I've seen how hard you've worked while you've been here, Bear. I'm sure you'll be a very useful engine here on the Northwest Railway. Bear grinned. Do you mean I can stay, sir? Of course you can stay, Bear. I'll be talking to the other railway about it tomorrow morning. Thank you, sir.
At that moment, a whistle sounded out, and duck steamed in with a train of fish from the Little Western. Those would be the last fans for tonight's kip-up. If you'll excuse me, sir, I'll need to go and get that ready, Bear said. Of course, the Fat Controller replied. Still grinning, Bear headed off. Early the next morning, the Fat Controller came to see Bear in the shed. Bear, I have spoken to the directors of the other railway. May I ask what they said, sir? Bear asked, a little apprehensively. They said we're welcome to have you. Welcome to the Northwest Railway, Bear. Bear grinned. Thank you, sir, he replied happily. I would like you to go to the works today for an inspection. I'll have the workmen give you a new coat of paint as well. Would it be possible for me to be painted a different colour, sir? I've never really been fond of this blue livery. The Fat Controller smiled. Of course, just tell the workmen what you'd like. As he moved off, Bear couldn't help grinning. The Fat Controller then spoke to Diesel. Diesel, as you've just heard, Bear will be staying with us. He will be handling your odd jobs, as well as some goods trains. Thank you, sir, Diesel replied. He was about to leave when the Fat Controller spoke again. Diesel, you caused confusion and delay to get my attention. I'm willing to listen to my engines, but don't try to get my attention through disruption again. Do I make myself clear? Absolutely, sir. And with that, Diesel sidled off.